Can we start the recording in a little bit?
Of course, yeah.
So I'd like to welcome everyone, and I'd like to thank TBC, Tibetan Buddhist, Chenrezig Tibetan Buddhist Center. I'd like to thank Losang and Elazar and all the people that have made this possible. That there's many of you that I don't know behind the scenes. Certainly Jen, also with the tech side, thank you so much. And I'm very grateful. And thank you to all of you for showing up. It's really a pleasure to be here and to be back with you. And let's talk about joy. And I believe we have an hour and a half. Is that right, roughly? Okay. And the topic today was about joy, bringing more joy into your life. And I will talk about that. But then I was also asked, because I'm so sorry that you lost a member, a very key member recently who passed away. And I'm sorry, can you refresh me his name?
Yeah, his name is Charles Robb, but he went by the name of Mac.
Mac, that's right. It was Mac. I had him on my list. And it's very hard to lose people. So apparently, and then I was asked, could you talk about death and things? But I think I've done some courses for you on that, unless I'm wrong. But what I'd like to do is talk a bit more about joy. So today's going to be about joy and death, if they kind of fit together, which in some ways they do, they can. And what I thought I'd do is I'll stop at some point and take questions from any of you about death and rebirth and dying and reincarnation. Any questions you have about the death process, what happens according to our tradition, I'd be happy to also discuss some of that if it's useful for you. So let's just take a moment to bring ourselves present into the space. And it is nice how there's some centers now when they start, they are telling you like Gompa guidelines, meaning what is it like if you're showing up as if you're showing up in person. So, and I appreciate when they do that where, you know, you're not having a meal right now. Like I know somebody that, and people don't know this. So I know students that as soon as my class started, I could see her having dinner and I was on the screen. And so normally if you're in a teaching, you wouldn't be eating. You might have a sip of water, but you know, you're not slurping loudly. If you're moving around, some people are outside when they're watching. It can be distracting for other people that are watching. So just turn off your camera then, you know, something like that. So it's more about trying to have that respectful approach, which is really good for you. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you so much. So why don't we start with some brief meditation. And if you'd like, you just find that comfortable position for your body. You can lightly close your eyes. And check the position of your body. This is something we forget when we want to meditate. We plunk ourselves down on a seat, and you can absolutely meditate in a chair. Just have your feet straight down on the floor so the body's balanced. Or if you're on a cushion, any cross-legged position that's comfortable for you. That supports a spine that is as extended as possible. So make your sides nice and long. Imagine that extension. And try not to lean too heavily against the back of the chair so that your back will become strong over time. And as you find your way into this position, and the eyes are lightly closed, focused towards the tip of the nose or the floor in the space in front. Everything is drawing inward. Begin to deepen your respiration. And as you do this, start to scan for a couple of minutes from the top of your head all the way down through your body, through your feet and toes, using the respiration So the inhalation opens up space in any tense places in your body. So as you scan your body, notice if there's any tightness. Open up that space, and every exhalation, release that tension as much as possible. So this is a really important step, relaxation, that we forget when we meditate. It's a very key component. I'd like you to just bring your mind to the breath for a moment, just settling the mind there. And just notice thoughts of bubbles that arise. Let them float off. And just take a moment to think of the wonderful circumstances of your life and just breathe that in. And deeply to the bone level, to the molecular level, and let it fill all of your thoughts as well, so that body and mind can be touched by this gratitude. So there's a lot of suffering now on the planet, and we have various problems. That's normal in samsara. But we also have some really positive circumstances. Just the fact that you came on today and have electricity, Wi-Fi, some sort of device, it's a pretty good situation right now on the planet. Just fill yourself with that gratitude as much as you can. And from here, let's set a positive motivation for our time together and all the activities of the rest of your day. And in this tradition, we're very focused on benefiting all living beings. That's the heart of this tradition of Buddhism, Mahayana tradition, benefiting all living beings. The best way we can do that is if we become a fully enlightened being, a Buddha. Then you can do that perfectly, unlimitedly, with every positive experience, every positive quality fully developed in your mind stream, like wisdom, compassion, loving kindness. So just take a moment to, if you'd like to include that idea in your mind, your motivation, feel free. and at least directing the mind in a most positive way. Just take a moment right now and set that motivation. And take a moment right now. I'd like you to just think about, can you recall perhaps something recent, maybe something today, something this past year, which may be a bit more challenging because of the pandemic, some other incident, time in your life that you can recall you felt deep happiness and satisfaction, deep contentment. Can you pick up one point in your life that you experienced that? And can you have a look around? What was happening? What were you thinking, doing? How are you being? Who's around and what sort of circumstance is it? And allow yourself to feel whatever's coming up in this moment as you recall this moment, whether it's glee or joy that fills your being. Just allow yourself to experience that. And slowly relax. And when you're ready, please open your eyes. So I just want to have an idea right now, just have a sense. If anybody cares to say, to just unmute for a moment, where were you just now? Anybody care to say, what brings them that bliss? What was happening? What were you doing?
I was doing service at Insight Meditation Society. I was in the faculty staff room and assisting a teacher with an injury that they had. And it was just beautiful. And the light was like my grandparents' house. And I was in the middle of my 3 months of service. It was simply joyous.
Fantastic. Okay. Complete forgiveness. What is your name?
Oh, this is Allison, Amy, sorry.
Allison, wonderful, great. Thank you, thank you. Service, fantastic, fantastic thought. Wonderful. How long ago did you do that?
That was January through March of 2020.
Okay, great time to do that. Preparing you for the pandemic.
Yes, I've been on extended retreat ever since.
Yeah, I think some of us have been. Thank you very much. Other people, what else is going on? Where were you? What was happening?
I will share. It's Jen. So for me, it was actually just yesterday. I was outside of a coffee shop, actually in the Weaver's Way area, if anybody's familiar with that, in Mount Airy. And I'd actually had a really tough night the night before, so I was actually almost completely exhausted. But to the point of, because I was so tired, there was like nothing else left to do but just to be. And it was actually, I was sitting there with, with my partner and surrounded by, other people that were outside, just strangers, but they were all just being and existing together and having little conversation, having some coffee. And that's all it was. There was just nothing else to do. It was almost like the state of doing nothing, which is just very calming, and there's not even like anything to really say. It's just
Nice.
being.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we don't really let ourselves be enough, do we? We have to be doing something. I have a number of friends retiring or retired now, and we've been talking about how immediately people meet you and they're like, well, what do you do? What did you do? What, like, they need to put you in a box to know kind of how to think about you. What if we just kind of be with people and talk to them and find out what they're into right now and what they're interested in? So that's a neat reminder for us. It's nice to hear other responses because you get reminders of, it's nice to have something recent as well. That's great. Now, some of you may have struggled with it, I'm sure. Some people don't have some accessible, happy place that they can think of. So one thing I wanted to say, and I just want to thank people for jumping in, is just to consider for a moment, and we've talked about this a little bit before, is what lends meaning to your life. Great meaning, and you can build it and design it, but please don't wait any longer if you're not sure about that. Don't wait any longer. Figure it out now. And so for me, one of the things that has been is what both of these people said, and I didn't plant them here, right, is about service and about being present, are a couple things that really lend to my well-being, my mental well-being, which supports my physical well-being, and a balance in life. And I'm an ordinary person, just because I'm a nun, but I'm a really ordinary person. I'm not a holy being. And I struggle with my delusions in my mind every day, just like you do, or just like you may. So again, from the meaning, can you direct your life? And some years ago, hosting a retreat at a center, after a phenomenal amount of hard work and stress and things like that, but we got to a place in the retreat, of a month-long retreat, in the middle, that everybody was happy and everybody was participating in all the sessions the way the teacher wanted us to do. The teacher was happy, the staff was happy, like it was just running so well, and everybody was getting a lot out of it, of what they came for. And I just remember being so high from that experience, having such mental well-being from that experience, and having a bit of commitment in my mind at that time. This is what I want to do in my life. Like I need to keep doing this. This is what brings great happiness, lasting happiness. And it wasn't just about organizing a certain retreat, but making sure I could keep my life close to that sort of practice, that and serving, that I would be part of a team that could do things like that and make that happen for people, or be able to participate at that level like that. And so, and the thing is, at the time I didn't have any money, and I was working really hard at the center. The center didn't have much money, but I just really kept close with that motivation to do it. And again, that old book that we had was do what you love, the money will follow and things. My life's never been about the money, but what I'm saying is I've been able to manage all these years later. That was, 30 years ago, I think, 25, 30 years ago. And I've just continued to do that. So anybody can do that. Honestly, if you put your mind to it. It has been hard work. I'm not afraid of hard work, but if I keep that intent, like, am I serving? And I find that for me, what lends a lot of meaning is the idea of serving others and trying to do it in some capacity. And there's times I've done it in a smaller way. There's times I've done it in a bigger way, but that stays at the focus to bring joy to my life. So see what you might want to adjust, because I had to make many adjustments, and you continue to adjust over time. Suddenly I was grounded from being a touring teacher. As many of you know, I was traveling a lot in the world, and then the pandemic grounded me. And then I was like, oh, can I still make meaning? Can I? And then the center started opening up the Zoom platform, and inviting me. And then I'm like, okay, this is great. This is one way to serve. And then from that, I kind of had to adjust, because now I'm home and there was a little bit extra time from not traveling. So then what can I do? What would I like to do? One of it, again, a project to scan all the Dharma materials. That took time, right? But another thing was there's a couple organizations I could volunteer for. So I was like, well, that's great. That makes me feel good. These people wanted help. And so again, you're continually adjusting, but your motivation's at the core. Does that make sense to people? If you're not clear yet what will serve you best, what you're not happy right now, is discuss with some people, find out what really lends that meaning. And I just find that idea of focusing on others and helping others has lent incredible happiness to my life. When it's all about me sitting in the mind, I'm not doing anything, not exercising, I'm not, I'm sitting in the kitchen eating, I don't feel as great overall. And it does take a little pushing out of the system. And you might want to have a buddy. You have this great Dharma center. Find a buddy, make a commitment. We're going to read that book, that Dharma book that I keep putting off. We're going to go for a walk once a week. I'll meet you. You're in the neighborhood. I'll figure something out. Have a little, even if you don't meet, you can meet online and kind of talk about, did you go for your walk today? I mean, I've done that with many people. So there's many ways. We have to get creative. Okay, let's talk a little bit more specifically, and I'm going to bring in some notes.
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Is it okay to ask a question?
I'm going to take some questions in a little bit. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Hold that question. Thank you very much. Actually, since I'm going to go, let me just take your question now. Go ahead. No problem.
So I've chosen in my own career path to basically do service as a healthcare provider. And there have been a number of times over the years where it's come up that what we think we're doing is the good thing, but maybe it's not actually the thing that's helpful for another being. Maybe or what we're doing is well-intentioned, but it's landing badly. And so what do we do with where our motivation is? Are we motivated because we're trying to find joy by doing what we think is best for others? And is that then selfish because we're looking for our own joy versus actually serving others in the way that they might need best?
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. My motivation isn't just about helping others, it's to get enlightened, to help others perfectly. So what that is going to involve is I have to be on a Buddhist path. I'm going to need to be on I'll put it this way, some sort of path that will help me get to that place. So along the lines, I'm studying, I'm attending teachings when I can, I'm going to retreats, I'm doing my own retreats when I can, or learning how to do that. I have a meditation practice. There's components, spiritual components to get me to a place where, I'm going to be able to help other beings perfectly and be empowered to do that. So it's not just helping other beings because I think that's a good thing and people will think great of me. It's the means is to get enlightened to do it, and then you do it perfectly. So, and again, along the ways, we help people at our levels. If we're not enlightened yet, of course we help, but the focus, and then His Holiness would say, then be selfish like that. So there is that level of selfishness where there's times I've had to, taken myself away, where my mom always wanted to see me when I would visit from California years ago. And there were times I went off to do retreat for 6 months or something. And she's like, well, why can't you come here? Why are you going there for 6 months? But because that's what I need for my training to taper, to subdue the delusions in my mind. And I know everybody won't understand that, but the motivation was very pure to do it. And then His Holiness would say, then be selfish like that. Because my motivation was always there. I'm only doing it to help me get more swiftly to enlightenment because it was advice from my teacher. I could see the benefit at the end. And then the main thing is to benefit all living beings. So it's a balance we have to strike as we walk on this path. And again, we're assessing when we are helping people at times. I don't want to come in as a savior because I'm not a savior. It's more if somebody asks for my help, it's one thing. If you're a healthcare practitioner and you have a job and you're a nurse and you come into a patient's room, that's your job. Great. It's a great livelihood, nursing, medical professions, all great livelihood. You're directly helping, but I know people that do it with a lousy attitude. Then you could be an arms dealer, it doesn't matter, right? But I do know nurses that come in with an incredible attitude, incredible kindness. You do the best you can. You're a human, you're going to make mistakes. But also I have to be cautious just in my vocation is there's people that may come to me that I can't help. They're not accepting their alcoholism. They don't want to change anything. They don't, they reach out to me, but they're really not going to take the advice. That's fine, But then I realized at some point, many times they'll ask and ask and ask, and they don't follow any of the advice. Then I know I can't really help that much. People have to participate. So I'm not going to come in as the savior. I'm not going to come in as, you can't really fix other people. You can give some information to them that if they want to try it for themselves, cook it themselves, maybe they'll be able to get some, it'll help them.
Can I
Does that help?
share?
I actually want to go on and take some questions at the end because it'll end up just being a question and answer. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I go on for a minute? Hold that question. Okay. Was that
Sure.
helpful?
Yes, very. Thank
We're
you.
doing the best we can. Let me talk a little bit about let's think about some of these. Okay, this is from the Book of Joy. Some of you have read. If you haven't read it, please read it. It's a lovely book. It's interviews. It's a meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu some years ago in Dharamsala, India, where His Holiness lives. That's where His Holiness is quarantined, and he's been teaching from there, which I'm sure some of you have gone on. They're really great teachings. They just happen to, if you want to watch them live, they're late night for us, about 11:30, like that. But I like to watch some of them live when I can. So this book is lovely, and it talks about 8 pillars of joy that we've already talked about. Gratitude is one of them. So we've discussed a little bit of that, but it quotes certain psychologists, neuroscientists about their views because they're now exploring the brain, and they've been doing mapping of the brain for years. We did it with a Lama I traveled with in '94 in North Carolina. They put the electrodes on his head and measured certain meditations that he did. And there were effects on the brain, and they're noticing this also with hardened criminals when they teach meditation, that there's neuroplasticity in your brain. The mind is affecting the brain. So in Buddhism, we see them as separate. One is non-physical, the mind, the brain, physical, but somehow that consciousness has an effect. And when you're introducing more positive mind states, it's incredibly affecting these prisoners to help them counter aggression, hostility, and anger and hatred. Amazingly, like that. And some of the prisoners I've written to, they're having incredible times with meditation like that. So one of the neuroscientists, Richard Davidson, talks about 4 independent brain circuits that influence our lasting well-being. See how these fit for you. Okay, 4 independent brain circuits that influence our lasting well-being, okay? And the first one is our ability to maintain positive states. Maintain positive states. How do you do with that? Okay, now again, I'm not here to lay a trip on you. So please be kind to yourself. This is where it starts. Please be kind to yourself. That's the beginning. I can't be kind to anyone if I don't have some kindness, loving kindness towards myself. I am also a sentient being. That I'm also working for all sentient beings. That includes myself. Okay, but not just about myself without the bigger motivation for all living beings. But I also have to be kind and start there with myself. The huge step that we miss. So people suffer from low self-esteem, depression, anxiety. Treat yourself well with balance, within reason, right? Okay, so ability to maintain positive states. So sometimes I'd look at this over the years when I was training and studying, and I'm still doing that, but to look at certain Buddhist principles and I'd kind of say, wow, I really suffer from a lot of that. I'm not doing that well, or this one I do well, but this I don't do well. And that's what I would use in my meditation to assess, right? And there's times when negative states come up and you don't like yourself, okay? But that's what meditation's for. It's a holder for that, for me to just calmly get a look, because I can't change the things I don't like if I'm not aware of them and if I deny them. And in meditation, I might have to look at it. So it's like putting the stir in the lovely clear glass of water, and in the bottom is some dirt, right? I'm not really aware of the dirt. I don't see the dirt. I don't want to see the dirt. And when you start your spiritual practice, you put in the stir. Now I've agitated the dirt at the bottom. I've stirred it up. And now what I have is a dirty, murky water glass of my life. But before it looked pretty good. Before I got into spiritual practice, I was fine. Well, the dirt's still there, and the dirt has to come out. And if you don't deal with it now and you have more control of your life and your mind, you're going to end up dealing with it when you die, or future lives if you believe in that. So this first thing, ability to maintain positive states. Now we all know there's people that are positive. We love to be around them. They're upbeat, they're happy, they're fun, they're flexible. You know, they let stuff go. They don't have big issues with things. How are you doing with that? There's other people we know, very, very negative, that we don't really feel comfortable around. So think about that first one, ability to maintain positive states. How are you doing that? Okay, the second circuit of these independent brain circuits is responsible for our ability to recover from negative states. Something to think about. How do you do that? Recover, your ability to recover from negative states, negative experiences. Some people hold on to things for a long time. There's people I know, the worst thing I think that can happen to you is you lose a child. Your child dies before you, or a grandchild. It's probably the worst pain on the planet, some of the worst, I think. And there's people I know that have lost children for all variety of reasons, accidents, cancer, whatever, murder even. And there's some people that end up a victim for the rest of their lives. They never really recovered from it. They never were able to, you will always be sad from that and have a hole in your heart. There's no question. Always have that. But there's other ones where after the grief period of a few years and just being lost, they decided to give back, and they joined a support group. They got in an online group where they're helping parents who just lost children, suicide, something like that. They actually joined an organization. Some of them started an organization to support parents, things like that. So, and they're leading these incredibly full lives with joy, believe it or not, even though they'll always have a hole in them from that. How do they recover? Third circuit, our ability to focus and avoid mind wandering. How are you doing with that? Our ability to focus and avoid mind wandering. Okay, well, this is our basis of meditation. And this is what's beautiful about the Buddhist path. Because we teach a lot about Shine, Tibetan for calm, abiding, one type of meditation we do, like what we also call placement or stabilizing meditation. Keeps you more focused And an offshoot of that, the mindfulness movement has kind of sprung out of that. Mindfulness isn't actually Dharma all the time. You don't necessarily have a motivation to get enlightened to benefit all, but you can hang out sometimes when you're uncomfortable. Using mindfulness, using a breathing technique in a sense, noting that, you're in a meeting and something suddenly you're not happy. What's going on? Well, I'm breathing in, I'm uncomfortable. Breathing out, I'm uncomfortable. They just got that budget item approved that I wanted, and I needed that for my thing, and I didn't get mine approved. And sometimes I'm just going to breathe and be uncomfortable. Good enough, right? But the more I do that, I get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the reason that's helpful is it keeps me away from negative reactivity. So that's how the mindfulness movement can be very, very helpful, as well as keeping your mind presently focused. So I don't multitask much anymore. I found I didn't really get that much done doing it, and I felt very scattered. So have better time management skills, maybe better time management, like that, so that you can work on, I'm doing emails right now, 20 minutes, not answering the phone, or this is my time to return phone calls. This is my time to walk, maybe walking, and how about this, without the phone, that you're not talking on the phone. Because it's beautiful outside. There's nature, there's trees, there's a ton of birds out, there's, depending where you're walking, get yourself to a park if you're in an urban area. Be with that, be present with that, because it will train your mind to be more present with your everyday activities. And that will save you time, so you're not walking around your house all day looking for your glasses, your phone, your cup, like that. So it's a great one, that third circuit, to focus and avoid mind wandering. See if it makes you happier. Okay, here's the fourth and final circuit, ability to be generous. This is what Richard Davidson says. I'm not talking about money and things, a generous space of mind, generous attitude. You can hang out a little bit more with your friend who really needs to talk to you right now. So you're offering that, you're offering your ear, you're offering that time to listen well, right? People are struggling right now. Some people are really struggling. Maybe you go out, and if you live in the city, if you live near the center, some of you do, and you go out and there's other people, there's a lot of people in urban areas. Sometimes they need help. Do you ever focus, like have a little, because if I'm not walking and not looking on my phone or talking to somebody, put the phone in your pocket, put it on vibrate or something. I have more ability to walk around and notice what's going on. Oh, this woman just dropped something out of her purse. She's in front of me. Oh, here, you dropped something, you can hold the door for somebody. You're coming through a door. But if I have my phone in my hand, I'm talking to somebody, I'm busy. There's many ways we can focus that heart out, that generous attitude, like that. See if that makes you happy. And then in this book, they talk about the concept of, and they add this South African term, Ubuntu. Concept of Ubuntu. A person, this is what it means. A person is a person through other persons. So this is all about that, the generosity of mind of, I want to be a Buddha to benefit all living beings. We are interconnected if you want to have that motivation. We've seen with the pandemic, we're all in this together right now. We're all in this together. So I can't do this without other people. It would have been harder for me with the pandemic if the centers didn't get on Zoom. And now if you look at Zoom and you want to look at the gallery view, look at all of us. Sometimes I find that heartwarming to see everybody there tuned in, and pictures, and, so we're all interconnected. We're all doing this together. Now, granted, other people are having different experiences, but a person is a person through other persons. Think about your relationship of your neighbors, your apartment building. Maybe your house is attached to another house next to it. Maybe you're just in a neighborhood. Do you know your neighbors? Get along with your neighbors. Because when we don't know people, you hold stories about them that could be negative. When you know them, you take care of each other. take care of each other. Beautiful experience. So think about growing that space of the heart. Let's look at the 8 pillars of joy. Some of you are familiar with these. Okay. There's 4 that are related to qualities of the mind. 4 are related to qualities of the mind. 4 are related to qualities of the heart. Okay. Let's look at the qualities of the mind. Perspective is number 1. Humility, number 2. Number 3, humor. Number 4, acceptance. Okay. The qualities of the heart, the 4 that relate to that: forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, generosity. So here's generosity pops in again. Gratitude, we've talked a little bit about in the beginning, motivation. Let's look at number 1, perspective. This is your attitude, perspective, where it all kind of starts from. Amazing. Okay. A healthy perspective is really the foundation of joy and happiness. Okay. Because the way we see the world is the way we experience the world, right? Think about people you know that are very negative, and it's amazing. And I've told you this story before on an Indian train years ago in India, in a compartment with 6 people on an overnight train ride in India. Now, the Indian trains are their own kind of entity to themselves, but I was in a higher class compartment, so it was more comfortable, but I'm not talking about a big level of comfort. You know, this is not my own sleeper berth or anything. I'm sharing a smallish area with 5 other people. And it's when you sleep at night, you pull one of the beds down and there's 1, 2, 3, like 3 people sleeping in a pretty close thing. And there's 3 people right next to them in the compartment. A compartment only closed by a curtain, not by a door or anything. So it's 4 Indian family and 1 woman from England I didn't know. But sometimes if you find a Westerner in your train, it can be comforting because maybe the Indians don't speak English. A lot of them do, especially upper class Indians. But you know, you could share stuff with her, but she was miserable. This poor woman, she had been in India around the same time I have, several months, and she was just miserable and everything was negative. And you know, you're on a long train ride with somebody and it's just negative. She just, you know, everything was negative. And after a while, and the Indians did speak a little English, but they were really lovely. And I could see them looking over at her and not, you know, and I get a little embarrassed, like, oh, this is what they think of spoiled Westerners. So this is kind of what was going on for me with this woman. But it went on and on until the morning, and she wakes up, we wake up, we get up, they deliver breakfast to you. It's so nice, and it's good food. And we're looking out the window and the sun is rising. It's really beautiful over the Indian plains. I've mentioned this before, and you couldn't not think it was beautiful. Like it just, so I see that the Indians, the 4 Indians, a family, and I are looking out at the sunrise, the fields, the water buffalo, the villages, and we're having a moment together. Like we're looking at each other and we're smiling and we're just really enjoying without saying anything. And we're having our little coffee and tea they bring you, and just really pleasant moment for me, a pleasant memory, and really lovely people, this family. And she kind of pops in suddenly. I think she was in the bathroom. She comes in and you feel this hostility, and she's looking through her bag kind of in a rushed way. And I thought, well, the sunrise will get her. I gestured to her and I said, look, the sun is rising. And I gestured to the window, like, just take a break and look at the sunrise for a moment. Like, it's really, really beautiful. And she looks out the window and she looks for a really long time. And I'm thinking, maybe this got her, right? And I see her really looking quite intently. And then she turns back to me and says, really angrily, the window is full of scratches. So again, perspective. Do you want to see the world full of scratches because you can? Or would you like to see the beautiful nature on the other side of it? It's your attitude. But that was the way she saw the world. Everything negative. And she said, it's India. it's India. Why is this happening? You know, but the thing is, I was in India for the same amount of time and I wasn't having that experience. I was really loving India. So it's from your mind. As Buddhism says, everything comes from your mind. So what's your mind telling you when you're uncomfortable? What's your mind telling you when it's telling you stories of negative stories about yourself? And then what you need to do is you need to check the stories. You need to check the stories, but I want to understand that my reality, according to Tibetan Buddhism, comes from your mind. Imprints, karmic imprints are planted there by past activities of your body, speech, and mind. So if I would like to have a better picture playing on the movie screen of my life, then I want to take care of those activities of my body, speech, and mind. So even from the Dharmapada, the Buddha said, with our mind, we create our world. Okay, it's up to you. And don't worry about how old you are, or you didn't get, it's hard to get started, you can't do it. Anybody can start from this moment forward. Anytime. The hardest part is getting started, but you can. So our perspective towards life is our final and ultimate freedom. Our perspective literally has the power to keep us alive, to cause death, to have a great day, to have a lousy day, to be helpful to others, to not be helpful, like that. So again, the way you see the world, the meaning you give to what you witness changes the way you feel. I think most of you know that, like that. And this is from Thupten Jinpa, who is His Holiness, the Dalai Lama's interpreter when His Holiness teaches in the West. He said, perspective is nothing less than the skull key that opens all of the locks that imprison our happiness. The skull key is the key that opens everything. That's the magic key. So what is this perspective shift that has such power? What is the healthy perspective that the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu bring to life that allows them to greet life, even though both of them have experienced so much sorrow based on what's happened in their countries? So the Dalai Lama uses the term wider perspective, larger, broader perspective. And it involves sometimes stepping back, taking a couple steps back in your, even in your mind, excuse me, to look at the bigger picture. So as a result, I'm going to move beyond, excuse me, move beyond my limited self-awareness, my limited self-interest. You know, what's in it for me? What about me? Perspective. Humility and humor tend to go together. Humility and humor, in a way. First of all, they both come from the same Latin source. Also the same source for humanity, okay? From the earth, from the soil. So humility has a way of literally bringing you back down to earth, sometimes with a thud, right? And true arrogance, as we know, arrogance, haughtiness, pride, comes from insecurity. So we need to feel we're bigger than others with that, from a nagging fear that I'm inferior to others. But humility, you know, lower and realizing, and one Buddhist premise, just as I want to be happy and don't want to suffer, everybody wants that. Everybody wants the same thing. Want to be happy and don't want to suffer. I know sometimes we go about different ways of deriving happiness and avoiding suffering that doesn't always agree with everyone. Like a terrorist might get happiness from blowing people up, right? But fundamentally, they want to be happy and don't want to suffer, just like me, just like you. So when I realize that, I realize, wow, we're all kind of the same in that way. It's humbling. You know, some people make prostrations in Buddhism, full-length prostrations. Paying respect is the essence of it. Humbling yourself, laying yourself on the ground, you know, to remind myself, to cut pride. Prostrations are one of the things that cuts pride. That's an antidote to pride, like that when you do a lot of prostrations. And then humor, like humility, also coming from the same root. The lowly and sustaining earth, it says in the book, is really a source of humility, humor, and humanity. Okay, so in some ways, is it any surprise we have to have a sense of humility to be able to laugh at ourselves. And when you're able to laugh at yourself, it reminds you of our shared humanity, our common humanity. You know, like I see this person make a mistake. I've done the same thing myself, and I've been able to laugh at myself with it. So I can understand and I can help them more, you know, and also just be there more for people because I'm not taking myself so seriously, holding myself up to be, in a sense, better than other beings. Let's look at the fourth part of quality of mind, acceptance. Now, I often put this fourth quality of mind, acceptance, with the first quality of heart, forgiveness. Acceptance and forgiveness for me are so linked, okay? So acceptance is, it's not just resignation, you know, but there's certain people that are in your lives that are challenging. You may be married to them, okay? But there's certain people in your lives that may be challenging. What about them can we just accept this is how they are and let it go? Because you know you can't change it anymore. But the thing is, people are also mirrors for us. So could there be something in myself I'm not accepting? Which is why I refuse to accept it externally for myself. This situation with my partner, the situation at work, with my boss, with this family member, a situation in the world, you know? So spiritual business, if I should say business, kind of my business, right? It's not really a business, but my vocation. We tend to have our business really go up and exceed when there's a world crisis. 9/11, the number of calls I got, the number of emails that freaked out people of like that. 9/11, and so now with the pandemic, especially the beginning of the pandemic, all the calls, all the contacts, people wanting to talk, loneliness, fear, anxiety, people losing their jobs, people getting sick, like that. So, and people say, well, what are we going to do? What are you doing? What do you know? So part of it is acceptance was in the beginning, we had to stay inside. Basically, you know, avoid other people as much as possible until we figured out what was happening. So in acceptance, even now, accepting, okay? So if there's people on the planet and there's people in your community that don't want to get a vaccine for whatever reason they choose, that's their decision, right? So I'm just cautious to be around, you know, I'm somebody that got vaccinated, so I'm cautious to be around people that have not, and sometimes will limit my activities in person with them because I don't want them to get sick in case I'm a carrier. I don't want to be, you know, get spread with COVID again and then get another variant that I spread to somebody else. That's the best I can do. I'm not going to make anybody get a vaccine. I can't do that. I'm not going to argue with somebody and get angry with them because they have a different view than me. I don't choose to go there in my mind. Acceptance. This is the planet. People have different views, different beliefs, different ideas. You know, I can still respect them, but I can certainly set boundaries and limits to know what I feel safe with and what my pod, the rest of my family feels safe with. Like that. It's the best you can do. You know, and then accepting my own, you know, there's a famous quote, His Holiness always quotes from Master Shantideva. Why be unhappy about something if it can be remedied? And what's the use of being unhappy if it cannot be remedied? So, you know, when I first learned, like, this is what I can do, and you assess any situation. At any time, there's situations that face you. And there might be a time that some action may be needed. Your mind may trigger and say, is there something I should do here? Can I do anything? Like, sometimes you only have a split second to decide. But what I often found is if you've got a friend, let's say, I remember one night I was driving home from, this was in a rural area, and there was a dead raccoon in the middle of the road. And a friend of mine, we were driving slowly, and then they said, oh, well, you know, we should do something. Just don't say we should do, figure out with your own mind, what do you want to do? Right? So the friend could have said, hey, can you pull over? Let's see if the animal's alive, or can we do some prayers? And you know, so I decided to pull over, and they're like, we should do, you know, just make your decisions, figure it out quickly. It exercises your mind and builds strength in your mind of decision-making. Figure it out. Sometimes we make the wrong decisions. I know, I've been there, I've done it. I'll still do it because I'm a human being, but I accept that about myself. So I'm willing to take a risk and make a decision. That's okay. Sometimes you need to be decisive, sometimes more quickly, or sometimes I might want to think about something for a while and assess, is there anything I can do with this person or anything I can do in this situation? And I might need time to think about it. No problem. If you have the time, great. And I might come back and realize there is something I can do, then take action, but I would add with the motivation of compassionate wisdom. Take action from there. And then there's other times I assess there's nothing I can do. Then I have to let it go. I have to practice letting go. And set your boundaries if you need to with things. With forgiveness, and just going on to that, it's our fifth pillar. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, I mentioned this before, has wrote a wonderful book with his daughter called The Book of Forgiving. There's a lot of books about forgiveness, but I really like that one. And he goes through a fourfold practice of forgiveness, where you're able to tell the story about what happened to you to your abuser, if that's available to you. Meaning the abuser agrees, they're in front of you calmly, you have witnesses, you have people to protect you or safe things. And maybe the abuser's died or the person who harmed you. You can still do it through visualization with them. Tell your story is number one. Number two is tell what kind of hurt, how they hurt you. Name the hurt. What does it feel like? What's it done to you and your family? What's it done to your life? What's been going on for you since this happened? Number three, you forgive. You forgive. Just, it's a big generosity of heart, to just let go, because until you forgive, even if the person's died, the abuser, the attacker, whether you've ever seen them again or even know them, they continue to hold you hostage until you can forgive and let it go. The fourth part of it is you can choose to renew the relationship, which means you're agreed to have a relationship with them going forward, renew in a new way, because for them to continue to abuse you is not going to work anymore. And you want to have support, people that will support you in that and make sure setting boundaries, perfectly healthy way to do it. But you can also choose to not continue the relationship, and that's perfectly okay as well. If you realize the person is going to continue to drink, continue to abuse you, they're not taking any responsibility, they didn't think there was any problem, they're denying it, and you realize there's not enough health there on the other side to go forward, no problem. You hold them in a compassionate space in your heart. And this is, I'm choosing, and you might even state, we're not going to be seeing each other again. I don't want you to contact me, and whatever you need to state. Fourfold path of forgiveness that's in that book outlined, and he has a lot of exercises in the Book of Forgiving. So forgiveness, sometimes we refuse to forgive someone else because there's something in ourselves we haven't forgiven ourselves for, and they're mirroring something. So that's something worthwhile to look at in your meditation practice. And some people even choose through a therapist, but it is the way, forgiveness, and this process is a way that the Republic of South Africa got through apartheid without incredible vengeance and retaliation, is they chose truth and reconciliation, fortunately from Nelson Mandela's view, to move forward, where people could tell the story to the abusers, they were held accountable, they owned it, a lot of them owned it, what they were going through, and they decided to move on, everybody. So it's not perfect there by any means, but they have definitely come out of that unfortunate chapter. Gratitude, we've talked a little bit about, of incredible space of life to feel. I do this every morning lying in bed, is just to experience some gratitude about not only the good circumstances of my life, but my positive qualities in a balanced way. In a balanced way is enormously helpful to feel that. And it really cuts the kind of negative mind state. If, some people walk into a space and they see the positive of it, and some people just see the negative. So gratitude, instead of focusing on everything I'm not doing, everything I'm not, what I don't have, what I can't do, Please, I mean, look at us here. There's the fact that we're here, it's extraordinary. That all the positive things you have. Just how about food, clothing, and shelter? That alone is grace on the planet right now. Really grace on the planet if you have that. Let's breathe that in and experience that. The last two are compassion and generosity. Generosity we've talked about already. Compassion, I think as Buddhists we understand this term, wishing others to be free of suffering is the essence of compassion. Wishing others to be free of suffering. You know, I think we're, you know, it's contagious compassion, the warm feeling we get when we're helping others. They say actually releases oxytocin in our body. Same hormone that lactating mothers release. So you have this sense of well-being from, you know, having this sense, like the person in the beginning talking about service that they're doing, a place of well-being for them, place of joy, like that. So many exercises. When we see others being compassionate, we're more likely to practice that as well, to be compassionate. And then it results in a feeling we have of a kind of moral elevation. And I don't mean imposing this on anyone, but I talk about a feeling of well-being. Like sometimes I'll have a feeling of well-being kind of really manifests in body and mind. And suddenly I'll just be like, oh, that was, you know, I dropped off food at a food bank and I just would notice, like, don't just do an activity or volunteer thing, but, you know, I've been driving diapers sometimes in Chromebooks to refugee families and, you know, and I'm handing it over the box to the person. And the person like maybe just struggled out of West Africa, and they're in a completely unfamiliar, you know, neighborhood and don't know the language. But you're handing away for them to connect their kids to school, to connect them to the universe, and to see the smile on their face. You know, we don't always have a common language, but there's two people there connected. I'm a person because of a person because of other persons. Here's my person right now. And I get back in my car to drive out. And it's somewhere in like, I'll be delivering in West Philly, South Philly, Southwest Philly, somewhere like that. And I just breathe in and I'm just like this sense of well-being. I just let it fill me for a moment. Like, not that I'm any great being and not I'm so great because I delivered. It's more just like, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so happy that I can do this, that I have a car to deliver, that I connected to this organization. I'm so glad I'm giving back in a small way, little way. So compassion, feeling that for yourself, releasing yourself from some old stories you have about yourself. Self-compassion is really, really important. Really, really important. Again, starting with yourself. Again, as His Holiness would say, then be selfish like that. But what I mean is, don't lose the motivation of compassionate wisdom. Don't lose the motivation that the reason I want to have a nice bath tonight and calm myself down, the reason I feel that I want to go out to a restaurant with some good friends and have a good meal that may cost a bit of money, the reason I want to do something like this for myself right now, to care for myself, is again, to take this break to do this so I can continue my path to enlightenment quickly to benefit all living beings. So you never want to lose that motivation. There's just a little bit I wanted to talk about the pillars of joy, and just to kind of go in reverse order. When we practice a generosity of spirit, we're in many ways practicing all the other pillars. Generosity is the last one. When we practice a generosity of spirit, because in generosity, there's a wider perspective in which we see our connection to all others. There's humility that recognizes our place in the world and acknowledges that at another time, we could be the one in need. There's a sense of humor and an ability to laugh at ourselves so we don't take ourselves too seriously. There's an acceptance of life in which we don't force others to do something they don't want to do. We don't also force life to be other than what it is. And there's forgiveness of others and a release of what might otherwise have been. There's gratitude for all that we've been given. And finally, we see others with a deep compassion and a desire to help those who are in need. please. Any questions? So questions, and I'd like to start with the woman that was holding, where did you go? Is it Lori or is it somebody else?
Yes, it was Lori, I believe.
Lori, and then if people also have questions about death and rebirth as well, feel free, please, or anything I talked about today.
Hi, yeah. Hold on a second. Well, I was thinking back to the like moment of bliss and happiness when we were meditating, and then you talked about it while you were talking about it. About it, it was for me. It was accepting. That's what made me feel happy, and that is the service I try to do with others, is that I accept who they are and they accept me, because a lot of times they don't accept me for who knows what reasons. So the happy moments were when I was with people that I accepted them and they accepted me in return. Like when I was a teenager, with some of my best friends at that time, or when I was a child of, out playing with kids, and just being with fellow Buddhists makes me feel accepted, and I'm, so for me, the acceptance that you were talking about, it is part of our perspective and compassion, you know.
Great, great. Because the other thing is, one of the things that can hinder us is spending too much time thinking about what people think about us.
Right.
That it doesn't serve us. And the thing is, if I'm living an ethical life and trying to do my best, and if I have gotten some feedback from some valuable people that I value that have done it kindly, then I may try to change up some of the things they've told me, like things that might, and other than that, I don't need to worry about what people think. It just ends up being, it's an old habit many of us have done, but it doesn't serve anybody well. And it makes most people feel depressed and anxious. So if you can keep working on letting that one go and realizing, like, am I doing what, fits into some other things, and practicing the path and trying to have a good motivation, that's pretty good with that. And when we're also giving people a lot of power when we worry about what they think about us, and you need to check on their basis. Where are they coming from?
Exactly. As
Right.
I
Not
was
healthy sometimes.
right.
Yeah,
I was raised as a Christian, and so Christians were very into judging. My family, my mother and all, they were very into judging, and I grew up with that, but I never liked it. I hated that, and I always liked when I was feeling not judged, because that was just a good feeling, and I try to
Right.
give it back now to not judge other people. So
That's right. And most of us came from Judeo-Christian backgrounds here. And most of us probably came from judgmental scenes and things like that.
right,
Absolutely. But the thing is, that's not the essence of Christianity. That's the essence of human beings. So we want to make a distinction.
right,
That's just the essence of human beings. And
in our society.
yeah, society. So again, I don't want to give into, that's why I'm much more focused on being in Buddhist communities, because people are working on it, but it doesn't make Buddhist communities perfect. Not by any means, because as long as you have human beings, you will have delusion. Buddha nature is perfect, but human nature is not. So I accept that sometimes it's like that. And, and I look at the judgments in myself, and I've worked on it for years, because I realized I came from a very judgmental family, and that influence was there, and you can change it. That's what's exciting.
Right.
So thank you. Other questions, comments? Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you.
Amy, Amy, this is Elazar.
Please.
Actually, one quick comment and judgment, then I'll ask the question. From your point about science, it's evolutionary that we develop the judgment so that we can assess when we are with a predator or not. So it's really part of our survival
That's right.
makeup to be judgmental. But to your point, in these days and age, not very helpful, not the way we do it.
Right. That's a great point to bring up. It's actually in this book. It's in the Path to Heart, or I forget which other book, that there's books about when you want to understand why sometimes we have a negative mindset, is primordially in the fight or flight mode. When in prehistoric times, we were escaping large predators that could trample us and eat us. So you have an edge that protects you. Okay, but now if you want to fast forward to modern days, we do need the edge in certain circumstances, but you can still grow a very positive space of heart in understanding that, okay, when the negativity comes up, I'm just being alert, I'm aware, I'm checking danger. There's no danger right now. So now I can relax a little bit and let that go and move into something more positive. Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. That's a really good point.
Amy, my question is, in this area of acceptance, that nuance between, well, if you accept things as they are, there's a release and therefore some calm and peace because you're not resisting things as they are. But at the same time, some things, if you have compassion, you want to lessen somebody else's suffering, you would like things to be different so there is less suffering. So what do you do with the motivation of action inside of acceptance?
Yes, I mean, what I tend to do is assess a situation. I think I've mentioned this before here. It's not like I'm any great practitioner, but in the face of social justice, people ask me, like, do you let it go? Because we're Buddhists, we don't want to be unkind. We don't want to upset somebody. But here's the scene. So some years ago, I went to a bakery, passing by a bakery on my way back from a doctor's appointment. And there's cakes there that I knew my dad would like. I don't usually go to this bakery. It's a little bit upscale. I went in, there's a high counter, and I went in and I ordered my little box of whatever, gave the credit card, didn't cost much. But as I'm standing in front of the counter, somebody came up next to me. I didn't look at them, but I'm still putting my receipt away and my card, kind of zipping my purse. I'm still there. And an order took place, and I've done a lot of diversity work. So my ears are a little bit more tuned, and I heard the magic words. Can I see 2 forms of ID? Is what the person behind the counter asked. Now, this was just from my training in diversity work, where I just paid for something with a credit card and nobody asked me for any ID. So I was like, 2 forms of ID. I look next to me, the woman has dark skin. The person behind the counter is white. And I have a split second to act. Now, partly, there's a part of me that said, this is none of your business. Like, don't, so there you are. Like, should I do something? Do it. But, I'm a Buddhist. Like, compassion's got to be there. But, I already felt being a little tweaked by the person behind the counter. Like, how dare you? There was a part of my mind that was like, how dare you? Like, it just racism. I was like, there's part of me, but through the diversity work and through my own Buddhist training, I wasn't as angry or tweaked. I was like, okay, quick, you've got a split second. What are you going to do? Is it your business? Can I do anything? And quickly I made a decision. It is my business, because this is racism and this is not okay in my world. So sorry, and then it was like, okay, now that you decided really quickly, what are you going to say? Because I didn't want to yell angrily at the person. Like, that doesn't work. That's not really a compassionate response. So what I decided to do very quickly was kind of hesitant with stuttering, in a sense, that I kind of made, I blurted out, looking at the woman behind the counter, but very kind of calmly, innocently, is there a problem here? Just like that, where she knew she just took my credit card without any ID. Like, I busted her, but I busted her in a very low key way. It was the best I could think to do. I don't know if it was right, but she turned beet red behind the counter. And then she started kind of stuttering herself and said, oh, no, you know, she was caught. And she said, no, now she said, oh, no, everything's fine. And she took the credit card for the like $4.64, charged it, gave it back to the person. Now, what I didn't know is, was she the boss of the operation? What, you know, was she told by the boss she had to take that with people of color? I don't know. Like, I didn't know the whole scene. I acted with the best I could do. You know, that for me, that was the best response. I can't say if it's right or wrong. And I walked away, and then the person of color came up to me, thanking me. And we had a little exchange of like, I just said, I'm really sorry that this is stuff. So I feel like for me, that works for me. I can't say that's the answer for everybody.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
So you constantly have to use your wisdom to assess. You have to also know yourself well enough to know how you feel to interject something, but I really try to do it from a non-angry standpoint, because that's just going to fragment us more. And you know, I didn't really have any issue with the woman behind the counter, other than she probably, to me, just maybe didn't have as expanded of a mind to understand that there's nothing wrong with people of color, you know, but maybe she wasn't there yet. Okay. Maybe she could judge me to say, you shouldn't like people like that. Okay. Some people think that way. But at least it wasn't like a terrible experience between us. Like, I looked at her, she got beat red. No, there's no problem. And I said, oh, okay. You know, great. She took the credit card at the end, you know. So it wasn't some yelling thing where you hear people trying to settle a score by raising their voice, and then it gets worse and they hit them or attack them, or, I mean, with road rage, you could get shot sometimes. Think about what people do in their cars with other people and the anger that goes on. And it's like, it's not necessary. Can we choose kindness? I guess is the response I'm often trying to find myself. I hope that answers the question. Other comments, questions, please?
I was going to add that one of the things that helps me through stuff like that is just the idea of samsara, actually, just that we are all suffering, and even no matter how great we think we are and how hard we think we're doing, okay, we are still suffering. We still suffer, and it's just, in my mind, is what deepness that you are or the other people are. And so that gives me, you know, the compassion for the people who might be way deeper in samsara than I am, or, you know, and so that's how I try to get through it. That's it helps me a lot.
Sure,
Samsara,
great.
compassion.
Yeah,
Thanks.
great. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.
I do have a question, and I know it's 11.
And just tell me who you are so I can see who's.
It's Jen.
Jen, there you are. Yeah, it's popped up. Thank you.
And I know we're towards the end, so it's totally all right if you're like too big of an answer. But it has to do with reincarnation and rebirth. I've heard of practices where, and I don't think I'm personally there yet, of discovering your past lives, so to speak, and your past experiences. Do you have experience with that kind of work, and what is the actual benefit of, I mean, because I have enough with this my current life of understanding what's happening here. So going backwards, what is the benefit of that, of reaching enlightenment and better understanding of our own current experience?
I don't look back. I'm looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think there's really much benefit. And I mean, you get senses of what, you know, sometimes something from the past, but most people don't remember. So why spend much time on it? And we're really very focused on future lives, preparing for future lives. So preparing for your death, to have a peaceful death that you can use more subtle energy in your system at the death time as the gross body's finishing. And if you're patterned through meditation to recognize the internal signs that happen at death, the death time, you can use those to recognize the mind in its clearest experience, in its clear light nature, and then meditate on emptiness there, the nature of reality, to actualize higher states of realization. And that will help you plant deep seeds of virtue for future lives, to have better future lives that are going to help move you along to enlightenment more quickly. So that's kind of more my focus personally.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
This is Ani. I
Please.
have a comment about the self-compassion and self-care. I actually struggle with that a lot. I tend to be very outward looking, and then I forget. And this is actually common among nurses, or healthcare providers, talking about burnout and things. But one of the things that I've been trying to one of the ways I've been trying to approach it is sort of like from a functional medicine, really sort of epigenetics kind of point of view, which is our thoughts actually, it's starting to be understood that our thoughts actually affect our mitochondrial function on a very, very deeply cellular level. And so that affects, of course, our health. And if we're going to, and then vice versa. So our health also then affects our thoughts. So if we take care of ourselves, we take care of our thoughts, it helps us take care of our bodies, which actually helps protect this precious human life so that we can live longer, live healthier, so that we can do more for others, right? So that's sort of the angle that I find myself needing to take in ways in order to like justify my taking a break and regenerating and actually really refueling my cells in a lot of ways by helping my thought process.
Yes, it very much works that way in Buddhism. And the thing is, most of you know now, and I don't think anybody's great with self-compassion that I meet in the West. We're pretty bad at it. And it's just something, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just that we need to wake up and kind of be like, if I want to support other people, I need to have some balance in life with that motivation to support them and help them. And we see that, if you have for some people, when you have intense anxiety in your mind, or if you almost hit a car when you're driving, if you almost stepped off the curb and a bus comes by, and there's this adrenaline rush you feel in your body. So the mind absolutely affects the body, and all the way down to a cellular level. But instead of being overly anxious about it, and there's some studies I've read where the people that are more concerned about the anxiety, right, it affects them more negatively. And the people that don't, like, they're like, oh, I didn't get much sleep last night. It doesn't matter. They have, it much less affects their body. So in a sense, like with the negative things that we're doing or going on in our minds, can we attend to what we can in a balanced way, take care of it, and can we let the rest of it go for the most part and not have it so internalized with, I only slept this many hours last night, I'm not doing that, I really should, I'm stretched, can we just find a balanced way to live and without over ruminating? Because I think we overthink stuff,
Right.
don't we?
Right. It's they call it the second arrow. Somebody calls it the second arrow. We're not injured by the first arrow. We're injured by the thoughts about that.
Yeah, and that's the same thing about thinking about what people think about me and what they care and it's like, we're overthinkers. Let's just like take a deep breath and let it go. And that's why I like the relaxation layer of meditation that people forget. You come in from your activities, I want to meditate, it sounds really great, I want to meditate. And then you come back, you come in, you plunk on a seat and you expect to have really great meditation. It's not possible. You need to relax first. To just chill a little bit and be in the seat and notice, and that's how I started to meditate. I didn't know what I was doing. I had a meditation course, but I didn't know how to meditate. I'd come back from a kind of anxious job, some people there that were challenging, and I'd sit in this little place I made, nothing fancy, and I just kind of let the day go and just take a few, just breathe for 5 minutes and watch all those thoughts. Right. But instead of like attaching to them and making them bigger, I just watch them and they go and they go. And then suddenly I'd be like, oh, I feel better already. And then from there, I could start launching into another meditation and really looking at something. So for me, that's self-compassion too. that little, and even if you're at work and something really stressful is happening, you are, I believe, allowed to go to the bathroom. Take yourself to the bathroom. I had breaks when I was having little meltdowns at certain jobs, and I go to the bathroom, 2 minutes, and just, whether I had to go to the bathroom or not, but 2 minutes in a stall by myself, whatever. And I could do a little deeper breathing, and I could reset my motivation and say, like, okay, everything's really okay here. How many emergencies are there really? Some healthcare practitioners have some. An emergency to me is somebody, got blood spurting out of their aorta in the wrong way. That's an emergency. Or they had a major head injury or something. Those are emergencies like that. So again, don't also get caught up in somebody else's emergency, because I have lived with drama kings and queens. And I know, and suddenly it's like, oh, and I'm like, what? I forgot to get the milk. Well, and that just alarmed everybody. Is that really an emergency? You forgot to get the milk. Okay. But some people like to live on that edge, and it doesn't appeal to me, that edge. Makes everything more anxious. So again, I think we just have to do the best we can, right? Does that help?
Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Slowly, just, relax. Like, and also I just operate more and more from a place where on my human level, I'm good enough. On my human level, I'm good enough. Now, I'm not a Buddha. I'd like to be a Buddha, okay? And I'm going for it, right? And I know it's going to take me a long time to get there. I acknowledge that. But right now, I'm going to operate where I know I'm giving it my best shot, so I'm good enough. This is where it is, but I'm making improvements. I'm not sitting reserved, resigned, meaning that, like, okay, there's no changes I have to make. I have to make lots of changes in myself. And I'm doing what I can, and that's the best I can do. So I'm good enough. Can you operate from there? Because you're all good enough. But a lot of times that's a new concept for us, like that. Anything else before we close?
It was very great, Amy. I appreciate all your teaching. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Elazar. I want to thank Chinresig Buddhist Center and all the people that got me here. Ken, who really was one of the first people I met, who joined a pilgrimage I was leading in 2018. So it's lovely to have Ken and Marianne with us. And thank you so much for supporting the center all these years and helping the center. It's wonderful. And for Losang and the center and all the people behind. And may we dedicate also to Mac, especially in this 49 day from his passing, for that he may be completely free of suffering, and may he immediately take a good rebirth so he can become a Buddha and benefit all. I'd also like to keep his family in my thoughts and prayers and in our hearts, for all the beings around the planet like that who passed in the last 49 days, the same motivation. And for the thriving of the Chinresig Tibetan Buddhist Center. Fantastic. And may you hopefully be able to reopen when it's safe enough. And thank you so much, Jen. She just put a little thing in the chat of how you can support me. I so appreciate any help you can lend. I am going to be leaving September 12th to drive to California, and I'll see if it works out there. I'll stay. If not, I will be back to live here. If not, we'll see what happens. But then you can come out and do retreats with us. So I'm going to be helping mostly a center called Land of Medicine Buddha. And it's in the Santa Cruz area and helping. We have 4 active centers out there. So I'll be helping those centers and teaching at those centers and helping with some things. So again, you can find that anything coming up on my website. On the website, there's an Instagram button, because people say to me, can you let me know when you teach? And I don't have any way of doing that other than will post sometimes something on the Instagram thing. So I guess if you follow, I'm not really sure how it works. My assistant sometimes helps with it. If you follow me there, then sometimes on Facebook, then you'll see what's coming up, but otherwise like that. So thank you so much. I'd like to dedicate whatever positive energy we've created can we invest it in our being kind to ourselves so we can be kind to all others, and really helping us proceed along this path to full awakening? Because as Buddhas, we can benefit all mother sentient beings. So really for that purpose, I'd like to dedicate for also for COVID to be lessened all over the planet. And for people that would like, may more vaccines be available if that is protective for people. So thank you so much. And thank you very, very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable
And I
Amy.
hope I will see you again
Yeah.
in not too
Formally
far
enough.
in the distance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
You, Amy.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Amy.
Jamie. Safe
Thank you, Amy.
journey.
And Jen, can we do just the bodhicitta prayer in closing and dedication? And afterwards, if any of you would like to stay, we will continue with the 49 days prayers to Mac. Of course, fully understand if you need to leave, but that's what we'll be doing after.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Jen, for I was going to bring up some of my prayers, but I know you have. That's wonderful.
And Amy, would you like to just lead us through the
Sure.
English and the Tibetan? Okay.
Absolutely. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. O Janju Zenjo Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyorchig, Ke Panyam Pa Me Pa Yong, Gane Gandu Pewar Sho. Through this virtuous action, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead every being without exception into that pure world. Ogewadi nyor dudan Lama sangye drugyorne drowa chikyang malupa Dei sala guparsho.
As Lawson likes to say at this point, Yahoo! Okay. Joy to all, joy to all. Thank you.
Yes, much joy to all of you. Please be well.
Thank you so much, Venerable Amy.
Thank you, Venerable Amy. You too. Much joy, and may
Thank
you
you.
be well.
Thank
Have a
you.
fun,
Thank
have
you.
a fun drive out to California.
Yes,
Thank you.
enjoy.
Thank you.
Have a safe drive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Safe drive.
Elazar, we're doing the Chen Razik now.
Yeah, Jen's gonna, exactly, for all those who'd like to stay. Jen, what do you feel up to? Would you like to lead the whole thing? Would you like to share it before we get into the mantras?
Would I like to what before the mantras?
Would you like to do the reading, or would you like it shared, or what are you comfortable with?
Oh, I can do the reading. Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry, happy to do so. Oops, one moment. Avalokiteshvara, Buddha of compassion and entourage, hear my prayer. Liberate me and all sentient beings of the 6 realms quickly from the ocean of samsara. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta and profound wisdom be quickly generated within us. All collective karma and mental afflictions since beginningless time are purified by your kind and compassionate hands. Please extend your compassionate hands to me and all sentient beings, and guide us to the land of Sukhavati, the land of great bliss. Buddha Amitabha and Avalokiteshvara, please remain our spiritual teachers for many lifetimes, since you have shown me and all sentient beings the true path that quickly leads us to enlightenment. And now I believe we'll do about one round or so, yes? Of
Yeah, one round of I don't have my mala, so do you have?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think you like it, and I think it works nicely if we do the round. If we'd like to unmute ourselves and just do the mantra.
Yes, yes, hearing everybody's voices is very helpful for this. And you can all at your own pace, however you would like. And when you're ready, feel free to begin and keep Mac and anyone who has passed within the last 49 days. I know there might be others. There are others, of course. Om mani padme hum,
Padme hum, Om mani 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 padme hum. Mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani.
Om mani padme hum.
Om mani padme hum, 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 Om mani.
Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme
Om mani padme hum.
Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum,
Om mani padme
hum.
hum,
Om mani padme
mani padme hum,
Om mani padme hum, Om
hum.
mani padme
Om mani
Om mani padme hum, Om
Om
mani.
mani padme hum.
Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum.
Om mani padme hum.
Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum.
Om mani
Om mani
padme
padme hum.
Om mani
Om mani
Mani padme hum, Om
Om mani padme
mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum.
Om mani padme hum.
Mani padme hum, Om mani.
padme hum.
Om
Om
mani
mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme padme hum, Om mani 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 padme hum. Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum, Om mani padme hum.
hum. And would it be appropriate to dedicate this tiny bit
Yes.
of our practice?
Yes, absolutely. We could just do it in English.
May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Through this virtuous action, may I quickly attain the state of peace and lead every being without exception into that pure world.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us, for being part of the Sangha. Thank you, Jen. And as Jen mentioned, any generosity to Venerable Amy is easy to do through the chat. These Western nuns really are on their own, so any support we can give them would be very helpful. Okay, until next week when Vicky Cahill will be leading us. Yes, nice. Okay, take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.